Hey guys, Dan Lotz here, back with a new video. I want to do something a little bit more fun, a little bit more low-key. So I'm going to do a tier ranking list of all my movies. I thought this would be a little silly, so let's jump right into it. Coming in right at the bottom, I wanted to start with a film that I don't really like from my own filmography. I think this would just show a little bit of a different perspective because I think I've always spoken positively about my movies, but this is a film I'm not so positive about, and that's Chlorine Reminiscing. It's probably my film that I like the least. This is going in an F tier. Definitely it has good cinematography. It's the first film we shot with the red, so like everything visually looks on point. I think the thing I don't like about this, there's not a lot of cuts, there's not a lot of scenes. It's kind of like just one giant 18-minute, driving scene with a couple other scenes thrown in there. And honestly, I think that it's like barely qualifying as a feature film. And of all my feature films, it's probably the one I like the least. Another film is Watch Me As I Go. This is a film I made with my ex-wife a couple years ago in Myrtle Beach. This is a good movie. It's solid if you like romantic comedy, sort of like fish out of water in a new place kind of movie. I give this a C tier. It's pretty good, pretty solid. I like what I achieved with the film. I think I could have done more. And I definitely improved on it with its sequel, Tell Me You Love Me, which I would give probably like a B tier. I think it's really solid. I think that film has better cinematography, a better story, way better acting. The acting is way improved in that one, and I think you can tell if you watch both of them side by side how much me and Elizabeth both improved as actors. Those films both are kind of like, little companion pieces. But I think you could watch Tell Me You Love Me without even watching Watch Me As I Go and still get the story. One of the more controversial movies that I've made is Pure Cinema 1 and Pure Cinema 2. Pure Cinema 2 is probably the worst movie I have on my list of movies. It's not really a movie. It was more of a joke because we were being trolled by some people, and I thought it'd be really funny if we made a live stream into a movie just to piss some people off. So it's not really a movie. I've never even given it a Letterboxd account because I don't really think of it as a real movie, but so far it's been on that page for so long that I just kind of pretend it's a feature film. So that's the very bottom, F tier. And Pure Cinema, I would definitely go E tier with that. It's a good kind of like time capsule piece. It's a piece that definitely I will always look back on as like, hey, I did this, and this was the first Oscars event, and I've done 3 Oscars events at this point. I really am interested to see how the piece will age going forward, and that's really exciting me. So I can't wait to see where that'll go. The next films I want to grade are the original trilogy, as I call them: Chlorine, Sheep Theater, Long Con. Chlorine is my most popular movie, and it's very easy for me to be like S tier, put it in the S tier. But this is just my personal rankings, so I actually think Chlorine's more like a high A tier film. I really enjoy it. I think it's really good. I love the vibes. I love the scenery. And I really feel like it is the film that I'm most known for and has most of my tropes in it. I think that there's a couple things that keep it narratively from being in the S tier, but I really like that film. Sheep Theater is the film that I made during 2020 when I was completely isolated in quarantine alone. For a few months, I basically didn't see anyone, and I ended up making a movie with a bunch of puppets. The film was very emotional for me because after losing my daughter, through miscarriage, I decided to kind of make the film in honor for her. And a lot of the themes had already been applicable, and it just kind of really took on an emotional stance for me. So this film goes in the S tier because it's one of the most important movies to me, and I really like how it turned out, and I feel very happy with all the work that I put in on that movie. Finally, Long Con, which is a film that I have taken the piss out of a lot on this channel. I didn't do any promotion for it when it came out. I was kind of mad about the movie just because we had spent so much time on it, and I felt like we didn't put in the amount of effort to get what we got out of it. It didn't seem to do much for our channel, even though it's our second most viewed film. I've actually changed my opinion on this movie a lot. I actually like it a lot more than I initially did when I had talked about it previously. So this film goes in the A tier. I actually love the story, love the acting, love the performances. The audio work that we did isn't perfect, but it is really good at salvaging all those performances. And I think that overall, if you want like something that's just scripted narrative, very like direct, and there's not like any fat on it, I think Long Con is probably the film that you're going to get the most bang for your buck. The next three movies I want to talk about are what I would consider kind of like the second trilogy. This is Ramen Sucker Punch, Hell is a Timeshare in Florida, and One Shot. These are all made kind of in a similar area of time. The first film we'll look at is Ramen Sucker Punch, which is probably one of my favorite films I've made. I think I'd put this high in the A tier, maybe right around Long Con. I think that the story that we did, me and Ed, was very unique and original, and it was very much a blend of both of our tastes as filmmakers. I really enjoy how the visual aesthetic turned out, and I feel like this is the movie that like most denotes what I'm gonna do next. It's the film that I feel like most is my style and my taste. And so it's the film we worked the longest on the 12 features, and I think you can tell. So this is definitely one of my favorites. I'll put this in the high A tier. The next film is a film I only worked on as an editor. It's called Hell is a Timeshare in Florida, directed by my buddy Joel. I like this film a lot. I think this film is kind of a sleeper because it didn't do a ton like when we first initially dropped it. But I remember seeing it at a party I was at, and were playing it, and it really is a sleeper hit. And I think like the emotions and the tone of the piece is really unique, and I think it's something that I feel like only Joel could have directed. I think I'm gonna throw this in B tier. I really like the ending of this movie. I think the ending may be one of our best endings on the channel altogether. And I remember talking to Joel about the music for the ending, and I had a totally different vision for it, and he made sure to shut that down, and he gave me a totally different song he wanted, and it worked so much better. So I really like the ending of this movie. B tier, solid, great movie. And the final film of that trilogy is One Shot, which is a movie I made in 3 hours, completely improv, on an open road. We're driving with one angle for the entire, there's no cutting. And this film is honestly one of my favorites. It's probably my second favorite film I've made that's been released so far. I really, really enjoy the tone of this one. I enjoy the cinematography, the performances. I honestly feel like Leanne and Austin bring so much credibility to this story. And I feel like I did pretty good too. I feel like I handled myself well. I just like everything about it. And I feel like for something so chaotic, it came out so coherent. So I definitely will put that as my second favorite, and I'll put that in the S tier. And the other three movies that I've released are Split Scream, 6 Days Alone, and Picking Up the Pieces. Split Scream is possibly one of my most successful movies. It's probably going to end up being my second most popular film. If it was just going based on that, I'd say it's pretty high up. I enjoyed the movie. I think it's really interesting. I like the concept, and I think the concept itself is really good. I think the movie isn't as good as the concept, but I think that like if I do a Split Scream 2, which is definitely something I'm working on, I'd like to tweak that up. But I really think that it's a unique like roller coaster experience, and I'd probably put that in the C tier for myself. I really enjoy this, and I think it's fun to watch. And I think like out of all my movies, when I sat down and watched this was just kind of like big dumb fun, and I liked that. And it's kind of in contrast to the other found footage movie I made, which is 6 Days Alone, which I consider to be much more of a dark and dour sort of experience. That film is pretty good. I feel like I could have done a lot of things differently with it. I wish I would have made it longer, given it a bit more story, thrown in a bit more scares. I think I was trying to be a little too subtle with it. I think this is an E tier film. This is probably like the line at which I think like films you have to see by me, this is where it would start. I think like anything below the E tier is like non-essential watch. This is like where I would say it starts. And I think that 6 Days Alone is a good movie. I think you will get a lot out of it if you watch it. But I don't think it's one of my best films. And then the last movie that I've released up until this point is Picking Up the Pieces, which is a movie that's become a lot more relevant to my real life recently. I felt like when I was making this film, I was like kind of channeling some sort of emotion that I couldn't really understand at that time. And after losing my dad, I feel like it's become a lot more relevant to my life. And I feel like everything flew off of kind of the top of my head when I was making this. I don't think we did more than one take for every scene, even including the fight scenes that we had done with each other, which involve a lot of shoving and screaming and fighting. This film just kind of felt natural, and I feel like I would put this in like a high B tier category, like right below A tier. I really enjoy the performances from Josh. I think Josh just brings it, and it's really, really funny. So that's the movies that I've released up to this point. But I thought I would throw in a couple extra, the movies that I have still kind of on the docket. And not all of them are finished, but I can kind of give you a rough estimate of where I think they might end up in my rankings. So let's go for that. So the first one is going to be a film called Two Cameras in Chicago. I don't know the exact name because I'm not the director. Joel's the director. I actually haven't seen anything from this other than a couple clips. So I'm actually going to rank this in the D category, which is I don't know. I thought that would be really funny to put that in that category because I have no clue exactly what this will end up being. It seems really cool. It could be really high tier if it turns out really good. I'm excited for me and Joel to kind of work on editing this one. The next film is a movie I'm titling Currently Watching Scotty Grow, which is a movie about this guy who's kind of like a gardener, and he does some nefarious things with his gardening. I really like the premise on this one. I think that the premise might be better than the execution of the film itself. And with that, I think I would throw this into the C tier category. It's shot on the red. It looks great. Joel brings the heat with his kind of crazy psychopath gardener performance. I wish the movie was longer, and I wish the movie had a little bit more time to grow, ironically. But this was the last of the 12 features that we were making, and we finished this literally like 2 days before the 12 features timeline was over. So we kind of went down to the wire with this, so we didn't really have ability to sort of make it longer if we wanted to. The next two films are The Heart's Intention and The Folk Filmmakers documentary. The Folk Filmmakers documentary is something that I'm really excited to drop. It's going to be a collection of footage I've filmed for almost half a decade, figuring out how to make a feature film, distribute it, making friends to this community. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see. I think I'm going to put this somewhere in like the ED category around there. Probably D, because I think it's probably not the most engaging unless you're into feature films. If you're into feature films, I think this will be like a must watch, but I don't feel like this is going to be something that needs to be watched if you're not into feature films itself. This is like a deep dive, and that's why I'm putting it in the D category. The other film is The Heart's Intention, which is a movie that I'm very personally connected with. It's a movie about suicide, and it's a movie I made last year before my father even committed suicide. It's a story about a guy who takes his life and he's stuck in a hotel and he can't leave. And I really like the story idea behind this. And it's kind of about this guy who's in purgatory and he can't get out from the place that he's in. And he has to go through sort of a spiritual, sort of journey trying to figure out what he has to do in order to get out of this place. And it's very unique. I'm excited for people to see it. It's going to be my most probably weird and out there movie. I'm throwing this in the B tier category. I think it's going to be really good, and I'm very excited for people to check this one out. The final two movies I have are Sheepland and Chlorine Kills, and I'm throwing both of them in the S tier categories. These are films that are both incredibly personal to me. I made Sheepland. I went up there, saw my grandpa, and my grandpa had passed not long after I had made the film. And then Chlorine Kills is a movie I'm making with my father, and he has passed on. And I'm working on both of them. And both of them are core films that deal with deep emotions and deep thoughts. And I really think these two films are some of the best stuff I've put out, and I cannot wait for people to see it. So I'm putting both of these in the S tier. I honestly think Chlorine Kills may be the best thing I've made, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you'd like to, give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment, tell me your ranking of the movies. And you know, if you have a chance, check out our Patreon, subscribe there. It does help us out. We really could use the help. Thank you, and have a good one.